pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Ms. Selchow?
Here.
Mr. Lindemann?
Here.
Dr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Ramos?
Here.
Mr. Bering?
Here. Just briefly, these meetings are not, well, let's say they're, you might consider hastily called. And when we have a meeting like this at an irregular time, it's basically because of time is of the essence. And in this case, we have a change order that we have to review, and always appreciate the availability of the board on instances like this. And to be clear, we don't like to do this at odd times, but as I said, in this particular instance, right now, we need all the time we can get to the contractors and prepare whatever they need to do. So with that, we have public comments, and we have Mr. Kevin Smith, and he's going to talk about poor attitude, part 2.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I spoke to you 8 days ago and brought up what I felt was a systemic disinterest in tempting the children of Douglas to go from simply having a high school education to obtaining, or high school diploma to obtaining higher education. Since that time, we've received responses from the superintendent that leads me to kind of think that Douglas School maybe has moved into full cover-up mode. The day of the testing, our daughter came home and advised us of the incident, the test that I covered last time. She was very specific about the band playing for an hour, 45 minutes. She actually said it covered 2 of the 4 segments of the test. So a minimum, I don't know how long the segments were. It's a 3-hour test, so at least half of it.
Jesus.
That day we attempted to contact Ms. Rodriguez and was told that she was out for the day doing training. We called the next day and was told the same thing. When she responded to Superintendent Samaniego, Ms. Rodriguez says that she responded during the test and got the band stopped within 20 minutes. Obviously both can't be true. While I can't think of any reasons why my daughter has anything to gain by exaggerating the time that happened, I can see where Ms. Rodriguez would want to downplay the incident. So that's for your. During the response, we also we were also told that College Board told Ms. Elias that the tests were only offered once a year. According to the College Board websites, and I provided some documentation that you guys may or may not have yet. According to their website, the tests were offered on October 13th, and that was the primary test day. They were also offered on October 16th, Saturday test day, and as a last resort on October 26th. The website also specifically states that if a school waits until the last date, no accommodations will be made for unforeseen circumstances, which unfortunately that's exactly what Douglas decided to do, was wait till the last opportunity. This specifically addresses the issue that I had, that there's an attitude that they do the absolute minimum. During the last 8 days, we've been trying to find out what can be done to correct the issues, and obviously even through what College Board's website is, it's done. There's probably nothing until next year at the most. But we have observed another issue, ACT exams. The ACT exams are traditionally, they can be given from the children's grade 6 on up, and they may be taken as many as 12 times. The tests, when they're taken, whatever the highest score is the one that they count. Any of the lower scores is just, they're irrelevant. So the more times the kid takes it, if they get a higher score, it's to their benefit. When my daughter asked about the counselor about the ACT, she was told that the test was being offered in December, but why should she bother taking it? Because all the juniors are going to be taking it in March anyway, because the state is replacing the AZ merit with the ACT test. Why would the counselors be dissuading children from taking those college exam tests more than once, or as many times as possible for that matter. We find out that we also, as we looked into it, the day that the test is offered is the same day, or is during one of the days, as the Tim Brown Invitational. If you're not aware, that's one of the things the wrestling group puts on. It is sponsored and hosted by Douglas. It's a multi-day wrestling event. So any of the kids that are wrestling, probably not going to be able to take the ACT, this one that's coming up. When we spoke to Mr. Ortega, who's both vice principal and, the athletic director, he was completely unaware of the conflict. Why does one portion of the administration over there have no idea what the other portion's doing, is what it appears like. If a simple calendar showing the possible major test dates were given to the administrators, such as Mr. Ortega, the tournaments could be scheduled around them. If he had known that this was a test date, they could have done the Tim Brown at a different weekend, a different time. That would have been simple. As it stands right now, if they bothered to create a simple calendar showing what the possible dates for maybe PSAT, SAT, ACT, any of that stuff, distributed to the parents, at least showing them the options that they have. As it is right now, from the email that we got from Ms. Samaniego, it shows that Douglas still says, children could take the test earlier, but they're still going to give the PSAT during the junior, and then they can do like the SAT. If they want to take it beforehand, they can do so. Problem is, if you're not aware that you can take it beforehand, is it really an option? So that's pretty much all I had to say. Thank you.
Can I ask a question of Kevin?
Uh,
Or no? Just tell me yes or no.
Ask a question, sure.
Kevin, did you ever try to schedule a test for Isabella, let's say like in Sierra Vista?
No, because all of these tests are given by certain boards. PSAT, SAT is given by the college board, and they're only given on certain dates.
No,
certain
I
times
understand,
during
I
the
understand
year.
that. I understand that. But the one that is the conflict with the wrestling match, did you ever try to see if you could take it beforehand somewhere else?
That's just it. On that packet that it gave you is the dates that the ACT score is listed. There's like 7. December 11th is one. The ones prior to December 11th have already passed. Then there's one going to be, I think it's the last page of the packet, one that's going to be offered in February, one that's going to be offered in April, which is probably going to be the one that they say all the juniors are going to be required to take. So it's not an option to go to another school on a different date to take that test.
Okay,
unfortunately.
Dr. Gomez, did that answer your question?
I think so,
basically?
but,
Because I think this is all going to get resolved, and then I have a statement regarding the statement that was made at this board meeting at the last time that you made this concern aware, made the board aware. And I told you that we would definitely have that on the agenda as an item at the next meeting, whether it be a special meeting or not. The reason it's not on this agenda is, number one, because of the information yesterday that we needed on the constructions, number one. And number two, I gathered that the administration, had they known or had the information, that it would have been on the agenda today. So what I'm gathering from that is that they haven't had an opportunity to completely scrutinize and talk to everybody involved. However, you did mention that there was some communication between you and Melissa, the high school principal and the superintendent. So I just want to reassure you that as soon as they get and they feel comfortable bringing everything back with a thorough answer, then we're going or explanation, then at that time, Dr. Gomez and
Sure.
yourself and any one of the board members were thoroughly going to discuss it, and that's
Well,
when we'll get into it.
And there was no doubt in my mind. The reason I came here today, I knew it was not on the agenda yet, that it was
Right.
pending for one. But since I did have a little bit of information, additional information, such as that with the ACT and some of the others, I wanted to add that to what the administration could look into. So,
Right,
thank
and,
you.
and I felt like I needed to explain that to you because I did assured you that it would be, but I assumed that they didn't have enough information.
Right.
But all of those questions will be open to the board and we'll have all the discussion necessary because I think that the high school administration is as eager to clear that up as the board is to hear about it. And I'm certain that the administration wants to know all of the answers to the concerns that you've raised. So we thank you again, Kevin. And we'll probably see you again for part 3. And I'm not making light of it.
I understand.
But the fact that we will thoroughly discuss it will be definitely on the agenda as soon as they have all the information for us, okay?
All right.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Soto, I believe on discussion action on the approval of the change order request to add to the field the name and signature on the new synthetic turf, which is in conjunction, and the reason we're doing that is in conjunction with some of the other issues that they have to address regarding the fill, and if we do it now, then we don't have to have them come back later as a separate, and this is all part of the same contract, correct?
Yes, it's the
All right,
same
so
contract.
why don't you go ahead with the explanation on that?
Okay, the explanation is, you have the change order on your hands, and basically this is to add the lettering to the
naming.
dozen field, to the field. And it's an $11,115 change order to add that. It will be part of the whole contract. It will be also financed. It will be included on that finance. That's what they're telling us. So, yes, like you mentioned, they're planning on coming and finish up the field on a way that they're they're gonna come and bring more of the eco infield to put it up all across the field, and they will want to come and do this change order at the same time. And like you said, it will definitely save money on another trip that they will have to make.
So it's what they're going to be doing on the fill that we're trying to coordinate this with them so they don't have to come back.
Correct.
Is that part of the original contract? There's not going to be any extra pay to the district on that? Is that part of what they're going to come and rectify?
Yes,
Is
correct.
the way I'm interpreting that?
Yes, correct.
That's part of the whole contract, and there's not going to be any additional charge to the district?
Well, they're bringing the added infill that is necessary and still pending based on the original turf agreement.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do the lettering of this, and they're going to check on the field, whether it's settled and all of that stuff that has to still be done. And so, as far as extra cost with the added infill and this, is only the 11,000. And so once they come, they're going to give me an update on whether the field actually settled and the turf on the little issues that we had seen when they initially finished installing it. Now, that piece of it, we won't find out until they come and
check.
do that.
Mhm.
And I'm
But I
hoping-
think what's important to the board to know is that if they're waiting for it to settle and see if it had and see what the consequences of whatever that activity is on the field, it's not going to be any extra charge. That's
There
part of the
shouldn't be.
original contract.
There
Shouldn't
shouldn't
be,
be.
correct.
It is, okay.
Okay.
Because I know there was some discussion
Yeah,
before.
well, there was some discussion before, and when we finished, when the company finished installing the field in within a few days, the last crew that was here noticed, I want to say, some waves on the field, if that's the
Right.
good explanation. And so they came, took off some pieces, did some kind of a testing to see if there was moisture, if there needed to be some additional work. And the information that both Mr. Soto and I received is that the field was safe to use, that if there was any more issues, they would fix the issues because that was part of the agreement. And one last piece of information, after multiple weeks of dealing with the company, was stated that we could do, that the field was still safe, they didn't find any moisture, that we just needed to give the field some time to settle, and that they would be putting in the new infill. And if, let's say, the field didn't settle, we had two options: either just leave it like that, or two, do some repairs, and that would cost us extra money. And then that's when I responded and I said, well, absolutely not. Because when you initially came and did the final demonstration of the field, and you notified us that there were that slight wave in the field, you said, and I have documentation, that you would take care of it. And so that's why I'm saying the infill, added infill, is part of the cost that was already paid for, that's already in the financing. Now the extra naming of the field will cost the extra 11,000 some, and when they come, we're gonna find out what they're saying about the settling of the field.
Okay, and Dr. Gomez, I know you have a question, but this might be fruit for more discussion. How much, you haven't paid them anything yet, right?
None.
The money is still
In escrow.
So we're, just to be clear and for the record, we're still operating under the basic contract, because we haven't given them anything which would then create a situation where anything they did extra would be over and above,
Yes.
right?
Correct.
So you're holding those finances, that there's no draws, nothing been
Not
done
yet.
Okay, Dr. Gomez.
You answered my question.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Oh, are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
So hopefully, Mr. Soto, when the reason that we had to have this quick is because they were waiting for my response, our response to say, okay, this has been approved, because the infill was ready to be delivered.
Correct.
Either this week or next week. And so I need to notify them as soon as the board approves this.
And the change order is part of the
Yes.
prorating of the
Yes,
total
sir.
amount that.
Okay, I do have a question, because you keep talking about the infield on the drawing. What is considered the infield?
No, Doctor Ed, the infill are the little pebbles that go on the turf.
Oh, yes.
So they, when they finished the field, and then they came in and did one of the final walkthroughs, because there were several, they determined that there was still more infill that needed to be put on the field, and it had to be ordered and all of that. So that's what they're gonna deliver, and then take care of the name of Gibb Dobson on the field.
Okay.
Okay, other members of the board, Mr. Lindeman, Ms. Selchow, or Mr. Ramos, do you have any questions regarding this item?
No questions.
Ms. Selchow, did you?
A little. So, if with the settling of the infield, that isn't covered under the warranty?
We're not into the warranty
Yeah, we're not
stage
even
yet.
into the warranty, and so it's part of when.
The installation.
The installation, it's part of the installation, and they gave me information, it's safe to use. The field is under warranty as specified by the contract, so the field has warranty no matter what. But the installation part of it may have caused, some of these little waves or depths in parts of the field, and that's why they said, let's wait for it to settle, and now that they're gonna come back and put more infill, they're gonna assess it again.
About how long does this take for them to do that?
I don't have that
To
answer.
put the infill, or to wait for the settle?
No, to put the infield in and to make the changes to the field.
Oh, again, as soon as you guys approve it, then we get in contact with them, and they're gonna give us a specific date. They were planning on coming this week or early next week. That's what they
But
said.
as far as how long it will take, we don't have that information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lindeman, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Ramos?
No, none.
Okay, good. All right then, so if you're confident, if the administration is confident that this action today will get that moving, And then, of course, the warranty doesn't kick in until after the original construction.
Correct.
We're not in that stage yet. And that was a good question she asked, but just for clarification. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. President,
Mr.
I
Dr. Gomez.
I move that we approve the change order request and then also to work with the company to finish out the field.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Mr. Lindemann.
Mr. Lindeman, second. Thank you. Any discussion, members of the board? Roll call.
Ms. Elchow?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes,
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bering?
Yes, so and thank you, board members, for doing that. And Mr. Soto, you'll get to them immediately
Correct.
after this
Right after
meeting,
the
right?
meeting, yes.
All right, thank you. All right, item 2B, discussion information on the aggregate expenditure limit as required by state law. And I think that's important that we know, and we have that discussion now as long as we're here. Mr. Soto.
But yeah, it's important. This is something, of course, like the state comes with new things every day.
That just came about our way.
They just came out. You have a very long background there. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's confusing, but technically what it is that we need some kind of legislative action for them to approve the over expenditures that have happened for $1.1 billion for the whole state, all of the school districts. It's technically a 16% decrease over expenditures that most likely, if the legislature doesn't do anything, it will affect all of the school districts by cutting their budgets. Now, one of the things that, which for our district will be roughly $4.4 million. Now, what sucks about this is that the legislature has until March 5th to make a decision. March 5th is just a couple months away from finishing up the school year. And again, if that doesn't if the legislature doesn't take any action or they don't approve the over expenditures, then the districts are going to be cut. So I know Mrs. Samaniego had some meetings today with another superintendents in the county. Of course, there's a sense of panic about this because $4.4 million out of our budget, I mean, is huge. And as you all know, 85% of the budget is salaries and benefits. And I know we're going to be talking about the minimum wage coming up on the next item, but that will affect that too. That's something that we have to do by law, the increase on the minimum wage. But then also having this cut is going to be very detrimental to our district and all of the districts in the state. So we're just waiting. There was a meeting today, right before this meeting, with ASPO, the Association for School Business Officials, and there was not much information. It was just ratifying the same thing, saying, again, we're just depending on legislature and hoping that they will just gonna take action and approve all the over expenditures and not do any kind of cuts. But in the meantime, is just we're gonna have to start having a plan of action just in case this happens. Again, I know Mrs. Samaniego is going to touch on that subject, but some districts are considering the 301 monies because that's part of that over expenditure, that they're not going to be given 301 monies or they're going to be holding until that decision is made. And I know that typically our district gives a payout in December and then again in May. So something for you guys to start thinking about. Not that we're recommending that right now at this point, because we will have to look at the whole picture of the finances and all of the other funds that we might have available to cover those things. But again, I don't know if you have a specific question in regards of this.
Let me just give a little, in addition to what Cesar says. So obviously, this is called the aggregate expenditure limit, and that's what it's known as, the AEL. And AD has just done their calculations within the last week and a half or 2 weeks, and so this is fresh information that just came our way. What they have determined is that across the board in all public school districts, school districts overspent this amount of money that is called the aggregate expenditure limit. And it doesn't mean that DUSD, did something, wrongful or not fiscally, financially responsible. It means that overall in the state of Arizona, because of
Lack of revenues.
Yeah, some lack of revenues in the state caused this over expenditure. So now ADE has to look at all of the district school budgets and determine how a 16.9% cut, because that's what the expenditures were overspent by, that 16.9, and determine by school district what that would signify or equal to in dollars. And as Mr. Soto said, the information I had earlier at my coaches superintendent's meeting was $4.6 million for Douglas. Sierra Vista School District, for example, is a little over $5 million. So it's all based on your enrollment and on your school budgets. And most of the superintendents are very hopeful and confident that the legislature will not let the educational system fail and just cut all this money come around March 1st, because for most school districts that would mean major layoffs and lack of being able to operate for this school year. So if they do pass, if they do prevent these cuts to happen and find ways to cover this over expenditure, then we would be okay. All school districts would be okay for this year. Obviously, come around next year, then we'd have to be very careful in our spending. And so there are, in your background information, AD and ASBO has provided this information to us. And so obviously these issues and the overexpending happen because of three things. Actually four things, and I didn't list the fourth thing because that was district additional assistance. But one is that over $600 million of Proposition 301 funding that were previously exempt. So in previous years, they were exempt from this calculation. But this year, it's counting against it. Okay, so that is just over $600 million. Number two, fiscal year 2022 school district budgets that count against the limit are based upon current calculations required for the use of prior year student counts, which were those students back in during the COVID year. Okay, and so all of our enrollment was much less. All school districts lost less kids. So if there's less students, it's a less of a budget. And then three, the AEL limit calculation does not recognize the increase over number of cost of special education services. So all those three factors come into this formula. And now we're just going to be working with our state legislature and hoping that in March, or they take action before then.
I think the important thing in the whole scheme of everything is, Mr. Soto, you said earlier that you have to come up with a plan B.
Contingency
and,
plan.
And I would recommend that from now on, as you build the budget, because there's so many different variables that we have to consider as a board, that we have budget study sessions all along, is so that anytime you feel like there's something going to affect the budget, that we have a budget study session so that the board's fully aware, and not only the board, but our staff and the general public as well, to know exactly where we are, so that we don't come back with a sudden type of announcement that we're going to do this or whatever. So, the government's famous for scaring people, and I personally can remember in another time at the state when every year before the legislature adopted the budget, we always had to submit a contingency plan on what you're going to do if the legislature doesn't adopt the budget, and now they're doing that to local school districts. Yeah. So, I mean, that was enough to do it to state agencies. Now they're doing it to local school districts. But here, it's much, much more significant because of the product we're dealing with.
Correct.
And the way it could affect a lot of people. Again, so it's very unfair, but.
Yes. So it was we wanted to inform. I took advantage that we had to have this special meeting, and I thought, this information just came to us, so I just wanted to inform the board, and I will be giving updates, and if we need to provide study sessions on the budget as we receive more information.
Board members, any questions or reaction to that announcement? We'll start with Ms. Salchow on the end. Do you have any reaction or questions?
Well, I was shocked, needless to say, about 4 million. But I agree with Mr. Brain that anything that the administration feels that we should know, please bring it to us.
Okay, great. How about Mr. Lindeman?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, Dr. Gomez.
Just figures, okay? So the 16% that you're talking about, and if we took it out of our working budget, would be the 4 million?
Correct. This includes all of the funds, M&O, capital, 201 monies, all of the federal grants. It's an overall.
Okay.
So it's not going to affect just one budget, which will
One
be
pot.
the M&O. One part is the whole
It's the whole thing.
thing. Correct.
Okay. Mr. Ramos?
Yes, I'm in agreement that we should be advised of any situation that arises like that again, so we can be aware of it. That's it.
All right, good. All right, the staff is aware of that. So do we have any more discussion, members of the board? Any afterthoughts? Okay, then we'll move along, because that's for information only. We'll move along to item 2C, discussion information on the Arizona minimum wage increase affected January 1st, 2022. Mr. Soto.
Again, as we have had conversations about this before, the minimum wage is going to go to $12.8 an hour for the state in general. There's other two cities. I think Flagstaff is going to go to 15.5 minimum wage in January, and Tucson, it's 12.8, but they have to go up to 13 in April, I believe. And Tucson have some kind of to get to $15 in 2 or 3 years. So that's different. It doesn't affect Douglas per se. So we're working on increasing 50 cents per hour to all classified employees. Last year, if you remember, I would like to increase that since the beginning of the year. That way we don't have any issues with budgets. But for whatever reason, the inflation this year just went off the roof. And that's why the increase was 65 cents instead of, I was hoping it would be like 15, 20 cents only. So now I'm going to have to adjust those minimum wage for the classified employees. So far, I'm not 100% done with the calculations, but it looks like it's going to cost us $126,000, $126,783 just to adjust the salary schedule. Now, I can create two scenarios if the board wants me to, that will just only affect those two categories that will be affected, that are under the 1280, and leave the rest intact. But then we're going to be in the same problem we've been for a few years, and collapsing categories, which I won't like to do. The number I'm giving you is just to give 50 cents to all classified employees. Basically, just add the 50 cents to all of the categories on the classified salary schedule, and go from there. Again, I'm not. I can create the other one that will just affect those two, but it will create more problems in the future if we want to go that route. So that's what I was talking on the previous item, that this is something that it will affect our budget definitely, and we're talking about $126,000. This is overall all funds, because we have employees being paid out of different funds. So that's what the amount will be. I can give you more detail, which I do have by.
So we're going to have this as an action item in December.
Correct.
December, right?
This is going to come for you guys for approval on the December board meeting. Approving the new salary schedule for starting January for classified employees.
Did I hear you right when you said collapse the salary schedule? That's what I would like to do? Is that what you said?
No, that's what I won't like to do again.
Okay, because I was going to say,
I
I don't think the board will go along with that.
No.
Okay, I thought you said that's what I would like
No,
to
no,
do.
no, I won't like for that to happen again.
All right, good. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
All right, members of the board, any questions or comments? Ms. Salchow?
No, I don't at this time.
Mr. Lindeman?
Not at this time.
Dr. Gomez?
Cesar, just one question. The 124,000, does that include benefits?
126,000. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Also, for the information to the board is, the state keeps it's not a done deal. I don't believe, but they also want to be to $15 in 2024. By 2024, January 2024, which I'm thinking that for next year, then the jump is going to be huge again for the minimum wage. Right now we're going to 12.80, and then if in 2 years they want 15, then we have $2 and something. So it's probably going to be $1 and $1 again. Just for you guys to keep in mind. Yeah.
Mr. Ramos?
No question.
No questions at this time? All right. Any announcements or anything, Ms. Samaniego?
No, not at this moment.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, and thank you, board members, for being available again. And we will hopefully have some more information regarding the aggregate
Yes.
spending. And of course, as you do the budget building, we will have those study sessions. Entertain a motion to adjourn
I move that we adjourn.
by Dr. Gomez, second.
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.